Howdy, y'all. Many of you were able to attend the virtual town hall meeting that we had this past Sunday, September or October the 18th, I guess. We had intended to record that session and make it available online, but we had some technical difficulties. And so this video recording is intended to be provide the same overview that I gave at that time of where we have been over the past 7 months as we have sought to respond faithfully to the COVID-19 pandemic, some of the decisions we've made, some of the factors that went into those decisions. Broadly speaking, I think it's fair to say that our decisions have been guided by three primary sources of information. The first is recommendations that we've received from medical professionals. And so we have tried to stay within guidelines that have been set by the CDC. We've consulted with the Texas State Health Services website to see what the infection numbers were like, both in the state and here in Burnett County. So we've sought advice from medical sources. The second source that we have consulted with as we've made decisions have been just the restrictions set in place by our elected officials. Many of those restrictions came from Governor Abbott. At times there have been some local restrictions that have been set in place at a county level. And so we've tried to comply with any guidelines that were set in place by our elected officials. And then the third place that we really turn to assist in decision making is the Episcopal Diocese of Texas. And so they put in place many guidelines, some of which we were required to abide by, some of which were suggestions. They had certain things that we had to do in order to return to in-person worship. So we have received quite a bit of guidance from the Episcopal Diocese of Texas, which has been very helpful to us. So as we've made decisions here at Trinity, there have been many decisions that we've made that we were able to exercise some control over, some that we had no control over at all. You know, particularly with regard to the Diocese of Texas, there were just certain things that were non-negotiables that they said we were going to have to do as we moved forward as a parish in the Diocese of Texas. Generally speaking, for those of us who have made these decisions, I think it's fair to say that our first priority has always been the health and the physical well-being of our parishioners. I think it's fair to say that if we have erred on the side of caution in that regard. So that's been our number one priority, but it really has not been our only priority. I want to emphasize that as well. We've also been mindful that worship is very important to us, worshiping as a gathered body of Christ, that our spiritual well-being is extremely important as well as our physical well-being, that we have a strong need for community right now, as many of us are isolated. So we have tried to balance some of these various concerns. Sometimes they're at odds with each other and sometimes they're not. But those are some of the different concerns that we've sought to balance as we've made decisions here at Trinity in response to this pandemic. So just a brief timeline as things have unfolded over the past 7 months. It was back in March that the Diocese of Texas suspended all in-person worship. And that was true for just about every church of every denomination throughout the country at that time. Pretty much everything got shut down in March. When that happened, our overriding priority became providing some sort of a high quality online worship experience for Trinity parishioners. And so especially in those early months, we are all deeply indebted to Dave and Bernadette Ellis and to Bob Watkins, as well as to our junior warden, David Waldo. Many people chipped in, but they really spearheaded this effort. And what we did initially was we pre-recorded worship using an iPhone. Actually, we were able to get a pretty high definition recording, and then we would send that out over YouTube on Sunday morning. We did this as we were and while we were doing this, we were also finding a way to upgrade our AV capabilities so that we could provide a true live stream experience for our Sunday morning worship. And again, that same team was really working to figure out what kind of capabilities that we needed and how we could locate the equipment that we were going to need to provide that live stream. We were able to go to a true live stream on Sunday mornings beginning back in June. And I think that that was really, as far as silver linings go during this pandemic, that was a pretty big one. The ability to provide a quality video stream of our worship services for those who are unable to attend for whatever reason. And so going forward, as we return to in-person worship being hopefully more our norm for worshiping together, we are going to continue to provide that live stream of our 10:30 Sunday morning worship service. And so that really is a significant silver lining, I think, from this whole pandemic. Once we did sort of get our online worship kind of up and running, then we turned our attention to planning for reopening for in-person worship. So the Diocese of Texas set certain guidelines, and then they required each parish, every parish within the diocese, to submit their own plan for how they were going to safely reopen for in-person worship. And so this was to allow individual parishes to work within the guidelines set by the diocese while also having some flexibility depending on our own context and our geography. So for example, we're really fortunate here in Burnett County that we don't have the same kind of population density that they have in Travis County or in Harris County. And so we have lower case counts, and we were able to reopen to in-person worship earlier than most of the churches just down the road in Austin. So we're very fortunate in that regard and grateful to the diocese for affording us the flexibility to do that. So that was a long and involved process of just sort of getting that plan put together and approved. We submitted it to the diocese. They made some comments and suggestions for revisions, and they sent it back to us. We'd revise it, send it back to them. So this back and forth went on for a while. They really wanted to make sure that we had not just kind of made a plan, but that we really had worked out the logistics for how we were going to be able to gather people again in person in a way that was safe and that minimized the possibility of transmission of the COVID virus. So we really received a lot of very helpful guidance from them in that regard. They approved our plan back in early September, and then I guess about 3-4 Sundays ago, towards the end of September, we held our first in-person worship services in the nave. And for those first couple of Sundays, we required registration. That was part of the plan that had been approved by the Diocese of Texas, and now we have dropped that registration requirement. While that was happening, the diocese was beginning to encourage churches, if they were trying to return to in-person worship, to find opportunities to worship outdoors. And so we started offering morning prayer worship services on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're continuing to offer that service on Tuesdays. And then we also developed, as part of our plan, an 8:30 Sunday morning courtyard worship service that we've been continuing as well. And so that has brought us to our current pattern of worship and of Sunday morning activities, where every Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock, we have a short morning prayer worship service that's in our courtyard. We are socially spaced out. We wear masks the entire time. Then on Sunday mornings, we have our 8:30 courtyard Eucharist. Again, that is an abbreviated Eucharist service that usually lasts 20 to 25 minutes. We do remain masked and socially distanced during that service. We have online Zoom Christian education at 9:30. We have online Zoom Children's Chapel at 10 o'clock. And then at 10:30, we have our worship service in the nave. Again, we remain masked, socially distanced. And so people are able to gather in person for that service. And that service is also being live streamed out to anybody who prefers to attend electronically. So that is our current pattern for doing things. It is my expectation that that will probably continue for at least the next couple of months. We don't know what the weather is going to look like going into November and December. At some point, worshiping out in the courtyard might become just a little bit less comfortable. But for now, we feel like we have provided a complement of worship and educational possibilities that really are doing what we can to minimize the possibility of transmission of the coronavirus while providing for our spiritual needs. Other groups, educational groups within the church and outside groups, are able to meet here on our facilities, provided that they fulfill all the guidelines that we've put in place as approved by the Diocese of Texas. So those include things like remaining masked at all times while on church premises, and remaining socially distanced at all times while on church premises. And so some of the outside groups that meet here at Trinity are complying with those guidelines, and some are feeling that it's better for them to continue to meet on Zoom for the time being. And so that's kind of where we are moving forward. I will note that as we have made these decisions, any major decisions have been considered and approved by the vestry, but we've been guided by a worship task force that has been really enormously helpful. And that task force has included me, it has included Nan our associate rector, Barb Parmiter, our senior warden, David Waldo, our junior warden, and has also included, who else? Rick Day, a member of our parish who is a physician, Bernadette Ellis, another member of our parish who's very, very active in our worship commission. She's our worship commission chair, but she's also a pharmacist, so she's provided us with very valuable medical information as well. And Ann Stefan, who is a member of our vestry and a retired nurse. So we've tried to include people who really have a lot of medical expertise to offer as part of our task force. And so we are really grateful for the guidance that they have provided us throughout this process. As far as where we're going to be headed in the future, we're really uncertain at this point. We're having to continue to monitor the numbers here locally and statewide and nationally. I think that we all know right now that those numbers are trending up, which is not a very welcome thing to be seeing. This may be kind of the fall bump that some medical experts have been telling us to expect. It is also worth noting from what I've seen, definitely locally and at a state level, that though those numbers, the numbers of infections are going up, the death rate as a result of those infections has gone down quite a bit. And so that's one hopeful sign that we can see right now. But we're going to really have to be sure that those numbers aren't spiking in any kind of a significant way before we make any significant moves to loosen the restrictions that we currently have in place with regard to our worship. So we're going to be looking at those numbers, and we're going to be awaiting guidance from the Diocese of Texas, as well as from our elected officials and our medical experts in terms of how we can safely continue to hopefully relax our restrictions a little bit that we have in place, and worship more and more in what looks to us like more of a kind of a normal fashion. So those are some of the factors that we're looking to going forward. But again, for the time being, at least for the next couple of months, we anticipate maintaining our current pattern of doing things here on Sunday mornings. So we had some really good questions and comments that were raised on Sunday morning. I can't remember most of them. I know that one suggestion that was made was that we consider offering a brief homily at our courtyard Eucharist service. And so that's maybe something that we might be able to do as we go forward. That's something that Nan and I are going to have to work out and figure out if we have the time and the bandwidth to do that. Another question that was raised by one of the parishioners was what they could do to support me and Nan and the rest of the leadership here at Trinity, which I thought was a wonderful and very loving question, the kind of thing that I've come to expect from you all. My answer really was that what we would ask for assistance is what you are already giving us. And that is a lot of flexibility in terms of the way that we worship and do things here at Trinity, and open communication in terms of your ideas, your concerns, your thoughts. You know, we are really not able to gather and communicate openly in the way that we're accustomed to. And so we're really relying very heavily on you contacting us if you have any ideas or thoughts of how we can do things better, or any concerns that you might have about the way that we're worshiping, about the way that we're meeting, or anything else. We really crave your communication with us in that regard. And I would add that the other thing that we're so grateful for is your prayers at a time when we are having to make often very difficult decisions in response to really uncertain and rapidly changing conditions. We are really sustained and supported, and we feel your prayers as we have sought wisdom and as we have sought to faithfully respond to this difficult situation, doing what we can to maintain the health and safety of all of our parishioners while supporting you spiritually and reaching out to the community and doing what we can to support people beyond this church, many of whom have lost so much and are experiencing great economic hardship. And so again, thank you for all that you are doing. If you have any questions or concerns, I hope that you will not hesitate to reach out either to me or to Nan or to Barb Parmiter, our senior warden. We would be delighted to visit with you anytime. So thank you so much, and God bless you all. Stay safe and stay healthy, and I hope to see you soon.